Hey everybody, Charles here. This episode is titled Just Take Your Medicine, and in it we cover rule number 2 from 12 Rules for Life by Jordan Peterson. Rule number 2 is treat yourself like you are someone you are responsible for helping. Our title refers to the fact that a surprisingly high number of patients who receive organ transplants do not take the prescribed medication necessary to keep their bodies from rejecting the new organ. We discuss what motivates people to make the choice not to take care of themselves, and how a shift in perspective can help you take your obligations to yourself more seriously. Enjoy, and please don't forget to rate and review, as well as send your feedback to us at mindfullymasculine@gmail.com. Welcome to the Mindfully Masculine podcast with Charles and Dan, where we take a conscious, holistic, and direct approach to relationships, mental health, and self-improvement. For additional content, visit our website at mindfullymasculine.com. And to interact with us, our guests, and your fellow listeners, join the Mindfully Masculine group on Facebook.
Good morning, Charles.
Morning, Dan. How are you?
I am well, thank you. How are you?
Why don't you get back to telling me how well you are on a 10-point scale? We haven't done that in a while.
Oh, I like that. I would say I'm a 7. I'm a 7 on my 10-point scale today.
All right, I'm going to go 8.
8.
Yeah, I think so. I had a very restful weekend. I had fun Friday night and then did almost nothing the rest of the weekend. So I'm feeling pretty good.
Good. Yeah, I'm at a 7 because I really went off the wagon on my diet protocol yesterday and had half a tray of brownies, and a couple glasses of wine. And I think the wine led to the brownies. So I'm a little extra bloated. You can see in my cheeks here this morning.
I had noticed.
Yeah. So I'm going to be a little extra disciplined this week with what I've been eating. So I am a little disappointed in myself. Ironically, so one of the things, actually that Peterson talks about is, in actually rule number 3, which we haven't gotten to yet, which is treat yourself as if, you basically treat yourself as if you were treating somebody else. Right. And so I even said to myself, because I had a little bit of a low blood sugar, and I even said to myself, hey, don't treat your low blood sugar with food. That's not the right way to do it. And I have a bad habit of doing that. Right. And then what happens is you don't feel the food right away. Your blood sugar doesn't go up right away because it doesn't hit your brain quick enough, and you stay hungry. You still feel like you've got this low blood sugar, and you end up overeating by quite a bit. Then your blood sugar spikes up, and now you have to compensate with insulin, and now you're playing a game of up and down again, right? So the real way to do it is treat it with a couple of glucose tabs, and it's like 8 to 12 grams of carbs, and then you're fine. But I decided to treat it with brownies because I hadn't had brownies. And I even said to myself, as I was eating the brownies, this is not what I should be doing. Right. Like I even knew, and I even caught myself and go, if I was going to tell somebody else to do what, give them some sort of coaching on this, what would I tell them? And I completely ignored it. So that's why I'm a 7.
Brownies can do that.
Oh, it's been so long since I've had a brownie, and they were so good.
My camper does not have an oven, so baking has been kind of off the table for me for a while now. But I am tempted to get one of those toaster ovens with convection, where I could do a little bit of baking, in exchange for giving up some of my very valuable counter space. Yeah. But if I were to do that, figuring out a way to make brownies would probably be too high on the list. I'm going to say too high on the list of what I would use it for.
Well, right now you sneak them in your ice creams, right?
Exactly. Yeah. With my, not since, I don't think I've killed a pint of Ben and Jerry's since probably around Thanksgiving. It's been a while.
Wow. That's fantastic. Yeah. Excellent. And you're still going with dry January, even though it's the middle of February or end of February.
Yes.
Congratulations.
I think it's safe to say I've defeated you, and I won dry January.
Yes, you won. Correct. Yes. I definitely did not win dry January.
Yeah. And it's been pretty easy. I've been surprised. I mean, switching to black coffee has been easier than I expected. Giving up alcohol has been easier than I expected. I did have a moment last night when I was sitting at my fire pit, just enjoying looking at the flames and playing on my phone a little bit. And I thought, man, a nice glass of whiskey would really go down pretty smooth right now. But it was like, no big deal.
It kind of passed. The urge passed quickly.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Excellent. That's great.
I mean, again, I tell people all the time, my relationship with alcohol is very boring.
Yeah.
Where if I have something that I consider to be more yummy available to me than alcohol, like I've never had a glass of whiskey as good as an ice cold glass bottle of Mexican Coke.
Interesting.
Yeah, that's like the which, what one could argue which one's more healthy for you, but
right.
And it's so good when you get one of those glass bottles that's like almost, right sitting at 32, 33 degrees, and it's so ice cold, and you pop open the top, and it's the best.
What kind of sugar do they put in that? Is that especially
100% real cane sugar?
Real cane sugar. So that's probably the difference maker, right?
Yeah, no corn syrup in Mexican Coke. They still use cane sugar.
And that's probably actually a little bit better for you than the corn
I would
syrup.
think so, than the high fructose corn syrup. Yeah. That's one of my favorite conspiracy theories, which I believe is actually true, which is when Coke switched to New Coke in the 80s, everybody hated the flavor. And then when they switched back to Coca-Cola Classic, the only difference between original Coke and Coca-Cola Classic was they made the switch from sugar to high fructose corn syrup. So some people say that the whole New Coke thing was only an excuse to be able to switch from the more expensive real sugar to the high fructose corn syrup.
Interesting. Wow. Yeah. That would, that's an interesting conspiracy theory.
All right. So let's talk a little bit about the very important things I've got going on.
Please.
Signed up for another 5K this morning.
Congratulations.
Thank you. It's Easter Sunday. It's on Easter morning. So when everybody else is celebrating whether Jesus came out of the tomb and saw his shadow or not, I'll be running a 5K.
Nice.
I'm also I also signed up for on this Way Better app that I use that helps motivate me to keep up with my walks or my runs or whatever. I signed up for their 5K trainer. So I'll be doing that for the next 6 weeks. And then at the end of that, I'll run another 5K, and hopefully I'll be quite a bit faster than the last couple that I've run, where I've come in at like 37 minutes. I want to break like 33 minutes. And I think I can do it if I run the whole time, but so far I haven't been able to run the whole time.
Okay. How far do you go before you have to start walking?
I can do about a mile. So 9 or 10 minutes of running, and then I have to walk some. Okay. Yeah. All right. Why don't you do this 5K trainer with me, Dan? Then you can start showing up for the things that Kurt keeps trying to get us to go to.
Wait, when was that again?
So the 5K trainer starts on the 28th. Yeah, so a week from today is when the training program that I signed up for starts. Okay. And basically, you run for a mile on one day, then you take a day off, then you run for like half a mile, then you run for a mile and a half, then you take a day off and run for 2 miles, and it sort of just edges you up to, getting your cardiovascular fitness to the point where at the end of 6 weeks, you can do 3.1 without stopping. Okay. I'll take your okay as agreement. So I'll sign you up.
At what pace? At what pace? I mean,
15-minute miles.
15-minute miles. So that comes out to how many
4 miles an hour? 4 miles an hour.
Oh, I could probably do that now.
I mean, you're welcome to.
That's like a fast walk.
Run faster.
It's a fast walk. For a little hop, skip, and a jump. No,
my walk around the neighborhood usually comes in between 16 and 17 minutes a mile.
Yeah, so that's high end threes. That's a walk. Yeah, it's going to be a high end threes. So that's a really slow jog. Yeah, let's do it. Sign me up.
Okay, and what do you use for your tracking? Do you have something besides your Whoop?
Yeah, my brain. I just count my steps.
Okay, well, that's not good enough when you're when you're signing up for this. No, because this thing, you have
1, 2, 3.
You have to verify that you've done your 15-minute pace. 4 days a week.
Okay.
Yeah, but then you can win money at the end of it.
I've got a Fitbit.
Perfect. So, yeah, Fitbit's what I use as well.
Yeah.
All right, so we'll get together and I'll help you get registered and all that stuff. We just need to do it before next Monday.
Okay. Yeah. Let's do it.
All right. The other thing I want to talk about is so we had a lot of fun at our Mardi Gras party that we went to Friday night.
That was great.
Yeah, Alphon Inn really knows how to put on an event.
But their facility is fantastic too. That outdoor, with the AstroTurf there, and this the way they lay it out, and also, the way they make sure that everybody, the drinks are out there in advance ahead of time. You're not waiting on a bartender to serve you. The food, all same thing. They had local vendors there.
The food was good. Those shrimp tacos with the habanero cream sauce. Oh my gosh, those were good.
Fantastic. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then Tibby's, a local restaurant here in Winter Park. They had jambalaya and some bread pudding that was fantastic. I
giving away free alcohol, and I skipped the alcohol and the bread pudding. Can you believe that?
No.
I
think you snuck it while I was.
Now I did have one of the little dessert shooters of banana pudding. Didn't love it. It was okay. It was good, not great.
Who's creating those dessert shooters, by the way? Was that the hotel or was that?
No. It was a cupcake place. I think they do cupcakes for weddings and stuff.
They look beautiful. They look nice.
Good. I think if I went with one of the other flavors, I probably would have had a better experience. The bread pudding, though, I mean, my ex-wife Erin made bread pudding from. She used the recipe from Magnolia Bakery in New York City.
Okay.
And it's the best bread pudding I've ever had in my life. I've never had anything even close to it. So I'm going to give up on trying bread pudding unless it's from and when I visit New York, I'll occasionally go in and get a little bit of bread pudding from there. And it tastes exactly like she made it. She followed the recipe exactly, and it tastes exactly the same.
I had no idea you were so high maintenance on your bread pudding.
You should have inferred from everything else you know about me. Give me just a second. I'm going to turn my air conditioner off.
Yeah.
That was easy. Didn't even have to get up.
Nice.
So that bread pudding or banana pudding, excuse me. That banana pudding was, I may have said bread pudding when I didn't mean to. It was banana pudding.
Oh, so you are open to the lesser bread puddings now.
I'm open to bread pudding. Yes.
Okay. It was the banana pudding.
Banana pudding that she made from their recipe. Now, the best bread pudding I ever had, I was 19 years old, and I made a cross-country trip by Greyhound bus from Orlando to Hollywood, California. And
for the bread pudding?
No.
Okay.
And at Universal City Walk, this is before they had a City Walk in Florida. They only had one in Hollywood. There was a Marvel-themed restaurant at City Walk in Hollywood, and that Marvel-themed restaurant had a Butterfinger bread pudding.
Wait a minute. I actually remember this story. You told me this. Yeah.
Did I?
It stands out in my mind because I remember, for whatever reason, once you said Marvel and bread pudding, honestly, it triggered that memory. You had told me. And then
I only have like 5 stories. I just tell them over and over again.
Right. So it's just a matter of time.
Yeah.
But I forgot it was Butterfinger. That sounds phenomenal.
It was amazing. It was the best bread pudding I've ever had. Yeah, I really liked it.
Did they have? I mean, was it like a Dairy Queen where they would have different types of candies in the bread pudding? Could you?
No.
A Reese's bread pudding. It was Butterfinger only.
Like they had four desserts on the menu, and one of the desserts was Butterfinger bread pudding.
Wow.
It was mind blowing. It was so good. I've never had a bread pudding that good before.
I'm wondering if we could get somebody to do a Reese's peanut butter cup bread pudding.
I'm sure it's out there.
I think that might be. I'm wondering if they just did the Butterfinger for the taste and the consonants for the marketing of it. So
maybe. I mean, the crunch is nice too, though, from the Butterfinger.
Okay. Yeah, I could add a little of that texture for sure.
Yes.
That would be nice in a bread pudding.
Yeah, it was good.
Yeah,
I'll see if I can find a recipe. So next time we do a holiday dinner at your place, I'll make some.
Oh, fantastic! I'm gonna put that on my calendar as a reminder for sure.
Okay, here's so the Mardi Gras party brought up, and I mentioned this in our group text with Kurt and Richard about, man, it'd be nice if we could find something sort of like that to do on St. Patrick's Day.
Yeah,
but most of the things that happen on St. Patrick's Day are just bar crawls, and I am over my bar crawl. I mean, number one, I'm not drinking right now, but even if I was, I am over my bar crawl phase because I think we're too old to do bar crawls now. I mean, at least I am, and you're older than me, so it's even more pathetic when you do it.
We got, we had talked about creating a little bit of a fancier bar crawl down here and hitting up some of the nicer places, right?
Yes, that's true.
And it can be done in a way where it is not such a S show,
Yeah.
So, and I think we could do it if we put our minds to it.
We could. I'm willing to give that some consideration.
Yeah.
And in the meantime, for St. Patty's Day, Boxy Park is having an event. We could go down there and enjoy that.
Oh, yeah. That's a great
spot. I still haven't been. And,
it might be a good time to do it. But the only thing is it's going to be a little bit of a line getting in. It's not just like an open free for all. Anybody can. We had to stand, like I've been there a couple times, and when there's when the weather's a little bit nicer, there's a big event, you're standing online outside for a good 20 to 30 minutes before they let you in.
Even when it's ticketed or just when it's
this was not ticketed, so I don't know. This is a ticketed event?
Yeah, it's like $10.
Oh, okay. All right. That might be something fun to do.
That has me a little worried, because if it's that cheap, then a lot of people will show up. I'm looking for something, I'm looking for an experience more in the $50 to $100 range.
Yeah, no, there's going to be a lot.
There are none of those. There are none of those for St. Patrick's Day.
Just expect the crowd. But the difference is, since it's all outdoors, and there's some of it's kind of like covered and not covered, it doesn't feel that crowded. Okay. Yeah.
All right. There'll probably be bagpipe players there, which, there's no such thing as a perfect. No, they sound awful. I mean, it's hard for me to believe anybody really likes the sounds that come out of bagpipes.
I think people just associate it with some sort of fond memory that they had,
right?
And I think that's really where that comes from, because
it's the novelty. It's not about the actual. I mean, it sounds like, when Jim Carrey's making the most annoying sound in the world, or most annoying noise in the world in Dumb and Dumber. That's what it sounds like.
Yeah, it can, absolutely.
So, no offense to all of our bagpipists that listen to the show, which I'm sure there's got to be at least one. But yeah, it's just, I mean, take up the kazoo or something. It's just terrible.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. So
I've definitely heard our listenership now. I've gone after the powerful bagpipe lobby.
Yeah. Thanks, man.
Yeah. You think Rogan had trouble? Don't take on the bagpipers. All right. So what else is going on with you? Anything exciting?
The only other thing that's exciting is I finally figured out my mystery, the ghost in my house. So I had installed lights in all the bathrooms where it's motion sensor lights, and they, for some reason, they're working in all the bathrooms except one by the pool here, and it would randomly turn on and off during the day and at night. And no explanation why. So I pulled out the dimmer switch and that detects the light, and trying to install it and reinstall it. And this has been going on for probably a year now, and I've burned out like all my light bulbs because they're on constantly or turning on and off constantly. And just this last weekend, I, for some reason, decided I'm just going to install it upside down and see what happens.
Okay.
I just turned it over and installed it and re-screwed it back into the wall, and it's working.
Do you think
it turns on when it should and turns off when it should, and it's fixed? And
do you think the sensor's pointing more down or up now than it was before? Is there no way to really know?
It's no way to really know. And the other thing is it detects heat, and then I've got a vent on top of it. And so then when the heat turns on, I think that might mess with it or whatever.
Gotcha.
For a while I was playing with it. Is it the shower curtain getting in the way? Is it the towel that's dangling? And maybe it's moving from the air conditioning turning on and vibrating that. I mean, I had tried everything. And I was about to rip it out and just put a regular switch in there. But it's really convenient when you're walking in there and, you're in a hurry. You just want to hit the toilet, you don't have to turn on the light. So I didn't want to let it go, but I just, for some reason, just like, let's just try and turn it upside down. And it works now. So I feel like I just kind of stumbled onto something.
I had
I'm happy about that.
I had the motion detector light in my toilet at my old place,
Oh, nice.
where so you could go to the bathroom in the middle of the night, and just by lifting the lid of the toilet, it put off a motion detector light that was inside the toilet bowl. So you didn't have to turn on any other lights. You didn't have to wake yourself up. You just had a nice illuminated bowl to aim for.
That's fantastic.
And, yeah, it was nice. It was one of the little things I got off of Amazon, and I was very happy with that purchase.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah. I like the detector in the wall, because if I have to wash my hands or whatever, if I'm running in there, I've got like dirty hands. I don't have to, turn on the light or whatever with dirty hands or anything else like that. So
yeah,
this is the way that's why I like the one I have. But
how's the hot tub working? I haven't checked in with you on that recently. You still using it?
Yeah. I used it yesterday. It was nice. Great. Very relaxing. I realized I need to rescreen my pool area because, walking out there naked, people can kind of walk by and see what's going on in there. And apparently they make some screens that where you can see out, but you can't see in.
Interesting.
And it's my backyard. I don't want to have to put clothes on. So,
yeah. How many yards away are you from a school?
No. Well, I'm probably about, I don't know, 100 yards away from the cross cemental trail though. So people are like walking by, and in all fairness, yeah, there are kids going to school on that trail. So, I do need to wear clothes and stuff outside here for the time being, unfortunately.
Yeah. I've thought about getting a little screen room type thing from the front of my camper, but, I don't know, that seems like that's committing to the lifestyle more than I think I'm ready to. I like living in a camper, a travel trailer that I'm only ever a couple hours from hitching the thing up and leaving. And I kind of like that part of it.
Yeah.
Where like once you start putting structures outside, it's like, now I'm a guy that lives in a trailer park.
Again, now you're excluding our trailer park listeners, so appreciate that. I mean, you are really between the bagpipes and the trailer park. You're really paring down our listeners.
Oh yeah, the trailer park folks. I mean, that's probably 80%. So I need to be careful. I don't want to.
And how many of those play bagpipes? So we're definitely
almost all of them.
Yeah, I would imagine that's a no-go at this point.
Oof. Yeah. Okay. My mea culpa, everybody. I will issue a formal apology on Instagram. Somebody's gonna put together a video compilation of everything I've said bad about people who live in trailer parks and people who play bagpipes, and then they're gonna try to cancel us. It's gonna be rough.
So maybe we should get into some content so that they can't deny our value.
Yes, good idea. Let's leave the controversy behind and talk about Jordan Peterson for an hour.
Yeah. And I just realized I made a mistake when I was talking about the previously about being responsible for treating yourself.
When you called it Rule 3.
When I called it Rule 3, it's actually Rule 2, and we're about to dive into that. So I just wanted to.
I caught that, but in a moment of personal growth, I decided not to correct you.
Yeah. No, please. In the future, continue to not correct me.
Okay, deal. I figured it would come out in the wash eventually. All right. So this chapter, this rule starts off with the interesting story about how even people who have received organ transplants, and they need anti-rejection medicine to stay alive, sometimes they just don't take it.
Amazing. Yeah.
What my first reaction was, oh my gosh, I can't believe if you got a new kidney, you wouldn't take your anti-rejection pills, every day so that you could stay alive. And then my second thought was, that sounds like something I'd probably do.
Yeah. And then
really,
you compare
it really does.
And then it compares that to the way most people treat animals. As if your animal's sick, you take her to the vet and they give you a prescription. You are far more likely to fill that prescription as well as give that medicine to your animal the right way. I think the numbers he's thrown out was 30% of the people won't fill the prescription if it's for yourself, right? And then of the people who do fill, he said only 50% of them actually take the medicine properly. So that's a sliver of people that for themselves really aren't taking care of themselves, but for their pets, I mean, it's clear that they love their pets more. And a lot of people also think of other people, that they love other people more than themselves. And this chapter is really about why that is.
Yeah. And I do, I mean, is it a matter of, that's the thing. Is it that you don't love yourself as much as you love your pet, or is it the negative consequence isn't really real to you? Like you feel somehow like, it's not. Yeah, I don't know. That's what I was having a hard time, because I mean, I know a lot of people that are very serious in their their belief and what they think is going to happen as a negative result of man-made climate change.
Mm-hmm.
But most of us still really aren't doing all that much about it, right? I mean, like most people think, yes, this is a problem. Yes, eventually, we're going to have to pay the piper for this. But it doesn't seem to really motivate our actions on a day-by-day basis in any kind of real way, because I think it's too far out in the future. We're not able to really measure it and react to it. And I think that may be why people are reacting the way they are to the prescriptions they get for their medicine to stop their body from rejecting their new organ.
Interesting. Yeah, I mean, the way I look at it, when it comes to the climate change stuff is I think it would be a little bit easier if there was like more tangible, specific things that we could do, right? That say, hey, do this and this will yield X result, kind of thing, or make it, accessible, or, very, like I said, just easy to find specific things to do. I mean, other than, look, I recycle. I guess we could, find a beach cleanup.
I see what you're saying. And I would say it's something about our nature where it's just like, how do you convince a mostly hairless ape that, flicking the light switch when you leave the room is going to stop Miami from being flooded? I mean, I think that right. Connection, it's just too big for us to understand. Right?
Exactly. Correct.
It's like, so, okay, I'll go ahead and turn the light off, but like, I don't really feel deep in my bones that flicking the light off is going to stop Miami from being flooded 20 years from now.
Right. Right. And
it's just too big of a world for us to, for our primate brains to understand, I think.
Yeah. And, I think when it comes to the medicines and and kind of taking the medicine and things like that, I mean, Peterson, what he basically says is that, we don't like ourselves very much. And that's why we don't care enough.
Right. We don't take them worth it. Yeah.
But you also make a great point, Charles. I definitely see your point in terms of what you just said, which is, if I don't take this, I've lived up until this point, right, without taking this medicine or doing these things.
Right.
So to like kind of inconvenience myself on a daily basis to take all these pills for specifically, if we're talking like the anti-rejection kind of medicine, and the thing is there's side effects from those medicines too. Right. And there's some significant side effects from those. I know that because my mom, we talked about it, but my mom went in for a lung transplant. And so, I'm familiar with a lot of the, a lot of the severe medicines that you need to take in order to, not reject an organ. But yeah, those are things that, whereas I feel like with your pet and you're the person, you're not going to get any of those negative consequences. Really. You're not going to see any of them. I mean, maybe a little bit, but not nearly as much as if you were taking it yourself. So I think, you've got a valid point.
Yeah, I think the other thing is when you think about different kinds of medicine, it's like, if you're prescribed a painkiller from your doctor, it's very black and white of, I feel pain, I take this pill, the pain goes away. Mm-hmm. So you're taking the pill to address something that's already happened to you. Right. Where with an anti-rejection drug, you're taking it, you have to take it first. So the bad thing, it's prescriptive, right? So you take it first so that the bad thing doesn't happen to you. Where with a painkiller, you're taking it after the bad thing has already happened, and you're stopping your suffering. You're not preventing it in the first place.
Yeah. And I mean, the same thing with, taking vitamins, right? That's kind of like a proactive type of approach. So I think, and because there is no, X equals Y benefit, or easy benefit to determine from taking this. Yeah, it makes it tough to keep doing it for sure.
I mean, years ago I was prescribed statins because my my cholesterol, my triglycerides were going crazy, and I got the prescription. I just never bothered to take it. I mean, like very rarely when I was getting something out of that cabinet, I'd be like, oh yeah, I forgot I'm supposed to take my pill, but I didn't take it with any regularity because I wasn't feeling any negative effects right now of having. I mean, cholesterol that's too high doesn't hurt. It doesn't feel bad. It doesn't make you feel bad.
Right.
But thankfully, I lost weight, and my triglycerides and my high cholesterol took care of themselves when that happened.
Yeah,
which is another good argument for sometimes a prescription is an answer, but it's not the only answer.
Yeah. I think
that was me giving medical advice. So I'm telling everybody, just throw your pills away and just don't eat any sugar or grain. And go for hour and a half long walks while you listen to a podcast, and you'll just be fine. So
I don't think we have enough room on the website for all these disclaimers we're going to have to put in for this episode, honestly.
No, the only disclaimer is don't listen to me for any medical advice that I ever give you. Whenever you hear me offer anything that feels like medical advice, I'm joking.
I believe the official term is lunkhead, according to Rogan, right? Yeah, I'm just a lunkhead who...
Well, Rogan's a lunkhead. I'm an uneducated genius with lots of opinions. That's how I like to describe myself.
Okay. We'll just shorten that to lunkhead. All right. So one of the things that Peterson talks about is his theory is that we don't like ourselves very much. And I thought this was kind of interesting. And I kind of relate to that, is that sometimes when we dislike somebody based on something they've done, we then only, we're already disliking somebody based on one thing that they've done. And what he says is, because none of us are perfect, we've done a lot of bad things in our lives. We've done a lot of things that we don't like, and we know all of those things. And because we know all of those things about ourselves, we don't like each other. We don't like ourselves very much.
That's
I mean,
there's probably something to that. It does make sense, right?
And we have to carry that around all the time. He talks about, we're a little weak, or sometimes we're useless. Sometimes we're prone to give into temptation, like I did with brownies on Sunday. Right. And so, and we have to carry that with us all the time. So we don't really like that kind of person. And so what he talks about is that because everybody is like this, try to love the sinner and not the sin. And a lot of times we do look past people, the mistakes that people make and the things that they've done or said, and we love them anyway. And he said basically, we should treat ourselves the way we think of these other people. And it's not an excuse to be nice to ourselves, right? It's not saying be completely kind and nice to yourselves. It's treat yourself the way you'd want to treat somebody else. So that means sometimes being hard on yourself, sometimes giving yourself that tough love, sometimes disciplining yourself, right? Because you wouldn't want, and sometimes challenging yourself. It's not just being nice all the time, because you're not going to grow. That's not how you properly treat somebody else. It's just being nice all the time. You call them on their BS, you discipline them, you set boundaries, and you honor them. And so that was enlightening to me, because I interpreted that initially as, just be kind to yourself, like you'd be kind to everybody else. And that's right. It's only a small fraction of how you treat somebody else. Right.
Yeah. It can feel a little like, oh, you're being too hard on yourself. It's like, maybe you're not being too hard on yourself. Maybe you're just being hard on yourself the wrong way.
Ooh, I like that.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yep.
So yeah. And we do typically have a better set of tools to measure how, when we need to be hard on somebody we care about, we're better at evaluating and coming up with a plan for how we need to be hard on them so that it'll be, for their benefit. Mm-hmm. Where I think we're bad at making that decision for ourselves. Like how do I need to, do I need to look at myself in the mirror and tell me that, I'm worthless because I didn't have a tray of brownies, and, look at you, you're so fat, look at your bloated face, look at that red shirt you're wearing. Whatever the message is that you're delivering to
I can't imagine how you treat yourself, by the way.
whatever the negative messages are, I mean, yes, there are probably some negative truths that you need to hear and you need to take in, but there's a good chance that they're not the ones that you're trying to tell yourself. So
Yeah.
it's like, yeah, there are probably some ways you need to be a little rough on yourself, but your intuition for what those areas are and how you should be rough on yourself, it's probably colored by all sorts of, psychological experiences from your past and things like that, that's telling you to be hard on yourself the wrong way about the wrong things.
Mm-hmm.
So one thing I wanted to ask you about with this chapter is, he starts getting pretty heavy into the Bible stories. And I grew up around a lot of Bible stories. I went to a Christian school when I was a kid. I was going to church, nonstop when I was growing up, and you didn't have an experience like that. So
Yeah.
when he tries to make these, biblical metaphors or analogies to Bible stories, the things that happened to Adam and Eve or Cain and Abel or whatever, does that cause you to bristle up a little bit or roll your eyes at all? Or are you able to find value in those stories?
So it doesn't cause me to bristle up, but I don't find as much value in those stories as I could if I was familiar with them in advance. So
Okay, gotcha.
It's not hitting home as much. I understand, and most of the time it's because I don't know the story, right? So, and I feel like he touches on the stories a little bit, gives a little bit of background, but for somebody who has has never read the Bible, no Christian religious knowledge, or very little, it's not as powerful as it could be. So the good news is that, yeah, he does touch on them, and I'll listen, and it's really just me getting familiar. What I'm pulling out of that is I'm learning about those stories a little bit, and through the way he explains it, but then also the other stories that he talks about, some about ancient Egypt, and then also, some modern stories. So I'm kind of putting that all together. And then, getting more familiar with those Bible studies. So for me, the bottom line is it just doesn't make as much of an impact as I think it could.
Yeah, I find the one of the interesting things I like about this chapter, where he kind of lays the foundation for talking about, what is real and what is truth. And I don't think you don't have to believe that Adam and Eve were real people that were walking around X thousand years ago to understand. It's like, if this story has been around for 10,000-20,000 years, whatever it is, even before the Jewish version of it appeared in the Old Testament, which is true for a lot of Old Testament stories. Especially, I think at one point Peterson says Cain and Abel might be the oldest story that we have as humans. The idea that there were two brothers, one of them did something to get God's approval and one of them didn't, and then the one who didn't got angry about it and murdered his brother. He's like, that might be the oldest human story that has been handed down through human culture since we stopped being animals and started being people. We always tell that story of the good brother and the bad brother. And he gets into this idea of, we're so science minded now, and science is young. Science is maybe 500 years old, and we've been dealing with these attempts to understand the world that we live in and understand each other for thousands and thousands of years, longer than we've had science. So there's something that about these stories, again, whether it's from the Bible or ancient Egypt or whatever, the fact that they've endured so long means that they're an important attempt that our ancestors have made to try to understand the world and try to understand each other. And so to just, swipe it off the table, which I'm not saying you're doing this at all, and I try not to do this either, but just to swipe it off the table and say, oh, that's mythology, that's fiction, that's nonsense.
Yeah.
It really does. You can't wipe away just the make-believe stories without wiping away what it is that has made us humans over the last X number of thousands of years, right?
Right. And I mean, you said it, which is basically that we're asking questions to understand things, right? And that's the purpose of science, right? It's just more of a formalized process of asking questions to understand things. And so just because, that formal process hasn't been around forever doesn't mean that it's any different really than what these stories are doing. They're answering questions, they're explaining things, they're providing an understanding, right?
Right.
So and because of that, and it'd be different if some of these stories were completely outrageous and they didn't model what is familiar to me in terms of the way humans act and behave. If it was completely different from that, then I would be like, now I'm bristling. Now I don't quite. But all of these stories line up with my experience on this planet, being a human being, and understanding people and the way, the things that we do. So that's why, it didn't, shut me off, because I was able to see the value in them as well.
Yeah, and I think that when he gets into sort of the nature of subjective experience too, where he talks about one of the lines is pain matters more than matter matters, meaning your own subjective experience as a human. While scientifically, like one of the things I thought of, scientifically, we know that the Earth's crust is 9 to 12 miles thick.
Mm-hmm.
That fact is absolutely true and means so much less to me than the pain I'm feeling when a friend dies, or when I go through a breakup, or when I get a bad diagnosis from my doctor. So it's like there's scientific reality of things that are absolutely objectively true, but those can't really hold a candle to the human experience that's happening inside of me, where the realest thing to me in the moment is the way I'm feeling about the world around me, not a given set of facts. And I think it's, you and I are both engineers by trade. I mean, we're really concerned on a daily basis with the objective nature of things. How do we fix this problem? How do we, get this system to behave in the way that it's supposed to behave, and things like that. And
mm-hmm.
and that can be separate from the subjective experience of what does it mean to be a human that's experiencing joy or pain or grief.
Yeah.
But those are the things that really get us up out of bed in the morning and tell us at the end of the day what kind of day we had, not scientific facts, right?
Correct. And, I'll be honest with you. I think one of the reasons why I, as an engineer, I like fixing things is because of the feeling it gives me at the end of the day that I did something, I improved something. Right. And so to me, it's, yes, those are facts, and it's a very regimented process in order to diagnose and fix something. But I know what makes me feel good. And if I've been able to resolve something, make something work better, make somebody understand something a little bit more, make life a little bit better in some way. It comes back to that subjective feeling, which is, that feeling of satisfaction, of joy, of accomplishment. It's one of the reasons why I like the work that I've been doing.
Yeah, and that brings me to another thing that I wanted to ask you about. And if I'm skipping over anything that you had as a note that you want to bring up, just feel free to go back. But when he gets into chaos and order and things like that, do you feel a particular attraction to one side of that equation more than the other, to the chaos or the order?
Attraction in what sense?
Like what makes you comfortable and alive to be in a situation where you're able to bring order or experience order, or when you're in the middle of chaos and you don't kind of know what's going to happen next?
I like to dabble. I like having order in my life, but dabble in chaos.
Okay.
And to me, the chaos is the flavor, is the spice, right? It's, and so I feel like for most of my day-to-day operations, in order to be healthy and think clearly and get done what I need to get done in order to put food on the table, that's where the order comes in, right? And then for my free time, and in order to recharge my batteries, that's where kind of the chaos comes in, or it's not really chaos, but more kind of like unplanned things and free form experiences, and going out and just being open to whatever happens and not having a plan. So, and it's more order than chaos for me in my life, I would say. But I like both. Okay. How about you?
I think I'm addicted to chaos. I think for me, the unfamiliar is what feels familiar to me. So if I'm not
interesting,
if I'm not in the middle of something whether it's a relationship or a work emergency or just going out and having, a completely unplanned, night out, then it's like I don't feel alive, which I don't know I'm not saying that's a good thing. I'm just saying that feels like the way I am, where, and I'm sure that, goes back to some of my experiences in childhood where, yeah, the new things are happening that I don't know exactly how to deal with was so constant that now that's what makes me feel comfortable.
And that's interesting. Do you think that contributes to how quickly you embrace new learning, new education, new ideas? You know a lot about a lot of different things, and I feel like not everybody takes that on. Not everybody is comfortable learning all of those new things. And Peterson actually talks about that. Our learning sometimes is you have to really or chaos really is not being able to predict something and not knowing something. And I feel like when you learn something new, that's some chaos right there, right?
Yeah, I think that's a good point. I would say that the experience of being proven wrong on something and having to throw out some idea that I've held on to for 10, 20, 44 years and realizing, oh, this thing I thought was this way, it's actually this other way, and I was wrong the whole time. I get more exhilaration from that feeling than discomfort, which is, why, I don't have to go back more than a few months to think of some political topic that I've done a complete about face on, where I felt about it one way, most of my life. And now I had some experience or read some book or, watched a lecture. And now I feel like, oh no, I had that wrong this whole time. And now I like the current way that I'm seeing it. It feels like I'm mapping closer to truth than I was before. And I don't feel discomfort. I don't feel like, oh my gosh, I wasted so much time believing the wrong thing. It's like, no, I feel the exhilaration of, wow, I get to experience this new perspective. And the older you get, the fewer times you get to experience that, where it's like, oh no, I thought the world was this way, but it's actually this way.
I'm going to disagree that you don't get to, that you choose. I think we choose to.
Maybe. Yeah, that's fair.
You're choosing to more and more. I just wanted to read a little blurb about this at the end of page 44. Peterson puts it really nicely in terms of comparing order and chaos to learning, right? Okay. Order is not enough. You can't just be stable and secure and unchanging, because there's still vital and important new things to be learned. Nonetheless, chaos can be too much. You can't long tolerate being swamped and overwhelmed beyond your capacity to cope while you are learning what you still need to know. Thus, you need to place one foot in what you've mastered and understood, and the other in what you're currently exploring and mastering. Then you've positioned yourself where the terror of existence is under control and you're secure, but where you are also alert and engaged. That is where there's something new to master and some way that you can be improved. That is where meaning is to be found. And I love that, because it's basically talking about use the confidence that you already have with the things you've already learned as your order, as your solid ground, as your security blanket, as you get uncomfortable and get your get out of your comfort zone and you start learning those new things. And he's very eloquent. I love the way he said that.
Yeah, that is that final paragraph on 44 is good. That's right before the Garden of Eden section that we'll talk about next. And I do like the way he said it, and it does relate back to some of the stuff we learned from the last book, from No More Mr. Nice Guy. And the idea is, when you're in a chaotic situation and you're trying to hold on to some kind of order, because again, you're dealing with a job loss, a bad diagnosis, somebody dies, somebody breaks up with you, whatever. Let that source of order be, everything bad that's happened to me so far in life, I've survived. So I'm probably going to survive this too.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes that's the only thing you have to hang on to. But it can be enough to say, all right, I can feel a little bit grounded, because what's going on right now is bad, but I've been through bad before, and bad hasn't killed me yet, so it's probably not going to kill me now.
Yeah.
And then hopefully you can free yourself up to treat, whatever you're going through as a learning experience, which that did. Yeah, I did want to mention that when it comes to the Garden of Eden, and how he talks about the whole, really the male female interaction that happens at what we typically call the fall of man, where, God creates Adam and Eve. They're living in the Garden of Eden. At one point, the snake rolls up and tells Eve that she needs to munch on the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, because then she'll be like God and she'll see things that she can't currently see. And she takes a look and the fruit looks tasty. So she grabs it, she eats it, her eyes are opened. Then the first thing she does is find Adam and says, "Hey, you got to try this." And he does, and then his eyes are opened as well, and so they both immediately recognize that they're running around naked, and that's not cool. And then God comes looking for them, and they hide. And he's like, "Why are you hiding?" "Because I was naked." "Who told you were naked?" It's all her fault. And then she says, "That's not my fault. It's the snake's fault." And then they basically get cursed and told they have to leave. They don't get to live there forever anymore. And that's when the second part of the story starts. I do think it is interesting to me that the first real test of masculinity in humankind was a test that was failed by the man, which is the test to say, I understand you ate this, but I'm not going to eat it. He failed there. And then once he did do it, he didn't take responsibility for his actions. He blamed his wife and said, "It's not my fault, it's her fault." And again, we don't have to believe that these are two people that actually existed and lived and walked around. But what we do have to believe is that ancient man found that it was necessary to make the first story that ever happened to humans a story of a man and woman not living up to their potential, and when they fail, their
not
reaction is
and the man not taking responsibility for his choice.
Correct. Yeah. Instead of taking responsibility, he decides he blames God. He blames for making her. He blames her from giving him the fruit and sharing with him. And it is. I don't look at it. There can be a way to interpret this of a evil patriarchal story of, look at this man trying to blame all his problems on the woman in his life. And that I think that is a misinterpretation of trying to sell the idea that, oh, the man's the hero of this story, and he did the well, he's not the hero. I mean, if any, there are no heroes in this story. I mean, one could even argue that God's not the hero, because he's the one that built a garden and let a snake in. So yeah, this idea that this is some sort of an example for men to follow of being a tyrannical patriarchy, because as soon as something bad goes on, the man blames the woman. It's like, yes, as soon as something bad happens, the man does blame the woman, and that does not make him a hero. That makes him weak. That is, that is the worst embodiment of masculinity, to do something wrong, to succumb to what's essentially peer pressure, and then blame the other person for the action that you took. That is the kind of man we don't want to be, not the kind of man we want to be.
Right. And I mean, you can replace that with woman too. I mean, I think a good human being, regardless, takes responsibility for the choices that they make.
They do. And I have an impulse to be harder on him than I do on her.
Why is that?
I don't know. I mean, that could be my nice guy thinking. That could be, my limited understanding of evolutionary biology and psychology. But, for me, the guy I identify with, or the character I identify with most in the story, is obviously Adam.
Yeah.
And I look at him and say, no, your job was to provide safety and security, and you failed at that job. And then instead of taking responsibility for your failure, you try to blame somebody else.
Yeah.
And that's what makes me, bristle and say,
I get it.
This is not the guy I want to be.
Yeah.
So regardless of what she did wrong, regardless of what the snake did wrong, regardless of what the God in the story may have done, quote unquote, wrong, Yeah, I identify with him, so I blame him. I want to say this is all his fault.
In this story, in this case, yeah, I would agree with you.
What did you think about the detail he gets into about how for a while, for some amount of time, and we don't know exactly how long it is, Eve's eyes are open and she's got a level of self-consciousness and self-awareness that he doesn't have. And that seems like an intolerable position for a woman to be in.
What do you mean by intolerable?
Meaning she couldn't handle the idea of, I have a better handle on what's really going on than my man does. Mm-hmm. And that's not okay. So I have to share this fruit with him so that he can see things. His eyes can be as opened as mine so that we can take on this world together.
Okay.
And so she shares the fruit with him. And that's one of the things that Peterson says. No clear seen, conscious woman is going to tolerate an unawakened man.
Yeah.
So she immediately shares the fruit with him.
And I get that, because from her perspective, if I put myself in her shoes, I would be lonely if I can't connect with somebody on the same mental level as I am, right?
Right.
Someone awake versus not awake.
Right.
That's lonely. You're not, it's surface. You might be able to connect in a number of ways, but it's not as deep as I think we've got an innate desire and drive for in terms of connection. And I think that's universal across humans, is our drive to connect with other people. And so, I know personally, I really enjoy when I can connect with somebody on an intellectual level and talk about things where when somebody's on my wavelength, it's wonderful, and I think that's what drives a lot of our behaviors, is that connection. So I get it, Eve. I get it.
All right. Is there anything else you wanted to get into on this particular rule before we call it an episode, or you want to stop there and then we'll jump into rule number 3 next week?
Yeah, I think this is a good stopping point.
Yeah, I enjoy this chapter. It's one of my favorites. Obviously it's never going to hold a candle to petting cats on the street. That's, we're saving the best for last.
That's tall order.
But I do like rule number 2. 1 and 2 are kind of my favorites at the beginning of the book. And then some of the upcoming ones, I think we can get through spending less time. So we may try to bundle rule 3 and 4 together next week if time allows. But this is a good one. I like rule number 2, and I like the idea of trying to remember to treat myself like I would treat somebody else that I care about.
Yeah, I definitely like this one as well, and I'm looking forward to the other rules with you. So that being said, thanks for putting this together. And
yeah, I enjoyed it as always. We'll chat more. I'll chat with you later today, and we'll be back to do another one next week.
Sounds great. All right, man. Have a good one. Take care.
Take care. Bye, Dan. Thanks so much for spending time with us on the Mindfully Masculine podcast. If you liked the episode, or you think it would be useful for someone else, please leave us a review and join the Mindfully Masculine group on Facebook. Remember, fellas, don't act masculine, be masculine.